Well, good morning, everybody. This is Gail Dana talking. I'm the project director for NSF EPSCoR in Nevada, and this is a pre-proposal orientation for the NSF EPSCoR Track-1 pre-proposals competition. We have people from UNLV attending and from UNR, DRI. We have a lot of people on remote, and we're going to go through some introductions in a moment. But first, Marcy, you want to bring up the presentation?
Yes.
So what's showing right now is the agenda. Basically, we're going to start off with me talking for quite a long time about the Track-1 program, some of the things that you need to know about submitting the Track-1 pre-proposal. And then Marcy's going to talk midway through about the forms and budgets. And then we'll end with the review process, the timeline, and then we're going to have a guest here, Dr. Kelvin Chu, to leave you with some things to think about in preparing a competitive pre-proposal. Kelvin, I'll introduce him later, but he is our external consultant for helping us put together a competitive pre-proposal. Next, Marcy's running the slides. So let's start with some introductions. What I'd like you to do is go through your name, your department, institution, what are your major research interests, whether you are currently part of a pre-proposal team, and what that topic is. So I've already introduced myself here. The only other person we have live at UNR is sitting next to me. Raj, you want to?
Yeah, my name is Roger Kreidberg. I'm the science support editor at DRI. I work as part of admin. It's a service that DRI provides to all of the research faculty at DRI. Plus, over a fairly long period of time, I've had funding support through NSF EPSCoR that has made that service that I provide primarily to DRI faculty available to faculty at UNR and UNLV. We're currently in an extension of the existing award, and I think we're running very low on funding for that service for UNR and UNLV faculty members, but I'm still doing it for DRI, and several of the people who are planning to submit pre-proposals have talked to me about working on their submissions. So I'm not part of any specific pre-proposal team. My research interests are broad, or I couldn't do my job. And that's about it.
Thanks, Raj. Let's go to UNLV.
Okay, here in Las Vegas, those of you who, when it's your turn to speak, please do press your button for your microphone to turn on. And it takes about a second for it to go live. Actually, I'll introduce myself. My name is Marcy Jackson. I wear two hats at this point in time. I have been the NSF EPSCoR project administrator for almost 8 years, and was recently promoted to the director of system sponsor programs and EPSCoR office as well. So I'm kind of the behind the scenes process person helping keep everything together.
Hi, everyone. My name is Meyer Diaz, and I am the NSF EPSCoR program coordinator, and I work closely with Marcy in getting a proposal ready to be submitted, and then after the proposal is accepted on the project itself. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Michelle Casella. A lot of you look familiar to me. I am the NSF EPSCoR diversity plan lead on the current Nexus project, and I also help coordinate all the education, outreach, and diversity activities for the office through NSF EPSCoR.
Hi, I'm Bill Colberth. I'm a faculty member in the Department of Mechanical Engineering at UNLV. And I'm in our nuclear engineering group. And the predominant things that I've been working on that could be NSF related are molten salt energy storage and high temperature heat pumps.
Maureen, my name is Ryan Sherman. I'm at UNLV in the Civil Engineering Department, and my area of interest is infrastructural, structural engineering, additive manufacturing, and I'm not currently on any pre-proposal teams.
Hi, my name is Mojda Pajou. I'm assistant professor in Department of Civil Engineering and Construction. And my major research interests are geotechnical engineering, extreme load engineering, crash analysis. And I'm currently are not part of a team.
Hello, everyone. My name is Chinook Choi, assistant professor here in civil engineering at UNLV. My research interest is mainly in infrastructure resiliency and in construction. Right now, I'm not part of any proposal.
Good morning, Ekalak Khan from UNLV, Civil and Environmental Engineering and Construction Department. My expertise is in water-related area broadly, mainly contaminant removal, water reuse, wastewater reuse, and I'm part of a water economy nexus proposal team.
Okay, let's go to the remote people. Maybe start with Kelvin, since I know Kelvin is on.
Hi, good afternoon, good morning. I'm Kelvin Chu. I'm Vice President at the Implementation Group. We're a proposal development firm that's under contract in Nevada EPSCoR to help with this Track-1 proposal. Before coming to TIG, I was a program officer in NSF EPSCoR for 3 years. And before that, I was the Associate Director of the Vermont EPSCoR project and the Vermont IMPRE project for 6 years. So we're looking forward to meeting with you.
And we're super happy to have Kelvin helping us and TIG helping us with this. Okay, let's go to, I'm seeing who's on there right now. Marcus, why don't you go ahead? Marcus Burley.
Good morning, this is Marcus Burley. I'm at the Desert Research Institute in the Division of Hydrologic Sciences. I'm interested in physics and mechanics of soils, and I had the joy to participate in the current NSF EPSCoR Nexus project, as well as I'm looking forward to participate in one or several proposals with this new opportunity.
And then we have Marcus, I can't quite read the last name, Kemmer or?
Meyer.
Okay, sorry about that. I see it now.
Good morning. My name is Marcus Meyer, and I am a social scientist. I'm a director of social psychology and a member of the sociology department. And I'm here because in the past, I was part of an EPSCoR project relating to with a bunch of engineers, where we also looked at the social science aspect of technology. And that's not my native turf. I'm more cultural and political psychologist, but then it turns out that especially technology, introduction to technology, sparks a lot of cultural changes, and it turns out that NSF is very happy to have social science aspects associated with technology-heavy proposals, and that's why I'm here. I'm not currently part of any EPSCoR team.
Great. Okay, then we have G. Park.
Yeah, here. Good morning, everyone. My name is G. Park. You can also call me Jay. My research interest lies in the use of information and sensing technology for engineering problems. So far, majorly focused in civil engineering problems. Right now, I'm on a team with Dr. Kwang Kim from UNLV. And that's it about me.
Okay. Are you at UNLV?
Oh, yeah, yes, civil engineering. Yeah.
Okay. All right. And then we have Haroon Stephen.
Yes, hello. I am Haroon Stephen. I'm here at UNLV in the Department of Civil and Environmental Engineering and Construction. And my research area interest broadly is in remote sensing and geographic information systems with particular applications to urban climate, climate change, water resources, and hydrology. I was on the previous EPSCoR project as well, where we studied impact of solar plants on environment. And I'm currently not part of any EPSCoR project proposal development team, but I look forward to joining one or two.
And then Thomas Padilla.
Hi, my name's Thomas. I'm at an airport, so apologies if it's loud. I'm at UNLV. I'm a digital research services librarian here. I'm the PI on an IMLS grant and a recently awarded Mellon Foundation grant that is largely focused on trying to figure out how libraries can collaborate with you all to support some of the projects that you're describing. And I'm not on a team currently.
Thanks. Are there other people on the line? I can only see a few along the bottom, so maybe if there are, just pipe up and.
Hi, Gail. This is Alan Gertler. I'm at DRI in the Division of Atmospheric Sciences. My research interests are in air quality, atmospheric chemistry, energy, environmental impacts. I've been putting together a team to sort of look at the issue of promoting economic growth and development while minimizing human health and environmental impacts. So far, I've spoken with people in UNLV, School of Architecture, also policy and governance. Obviously, DRI, I spoke with Marcus and Roger and Jay, and also at UNR with people in economics and the School of Business. So I'm looking at fleshing that out. I've got some material already written if people are interested. And if you'd like to contact me, my cell phone number is 775-815-9208, or you can shoot me an email and we can talk about how we can all work together.
Thanks. Anybody else on the phone? Or on
Hi, this is Amelia. Oh, got it going?
Yeah, go ahead, Amelia.
Okay, thanks. Sorry. This is Amelia Gouling. I'm also from DRI. I represent our Office of Education here. So we're calling pretty much because we'd like to help anyone or see if anyone has interest with their broader impacts. We were on some past NSF EPSCoR grants and got rated really highly, so we can help with diversity needs, workforce development, and K through 12 education. And we are statewide, so we've worked both with UNR and UNLV in the past.
I guess
Thanks.
I'll go
Anybody
next.
else?
Here.
Go ahead.
Scotty Strachan here at the University of Nevada, Reno. And while I have research interests in ecohydrology and sensor networks, I'm really calling in to register my interest in the cyber infrastructure related to grants going forward. So I'm now in the Office of Information Technology at UNR, and I have a position as Director of Cyber Infrastructure here. It's kind of a new position where we're looking at the crossover of how technology can help research. I'm interested in seeing, as proposal teams go forward, seeing what the opportunities are to have sort of this cross-domain workforce development and also technology coordination between the campuses in Nevada to sort of raise our regional capabilities in data storage, coordinated data storage, data networking, and related technologies as applied to research. So I've talked to folks here at UNR that are interested in putting teams together, but I haven't really gone outside of the campus yet. So I'm just going to listen to everyone and see kind of what their teams are going forward and see if there are opportunities for me to jump in.
Thanks, Scotty.
Hello, this is
Anybody
Allie
else?
Tavakoli.
Hi.
Can you all hear me? All right, yeah, so I am a new faculty at the Department of Computer Science and Engineering here at UNR, and my research is mostly at the cross-section of virtual reality and robotics applications, mostly for telepresence and teleoperation. And I'm here to see what types of projects are there and whether anyone would be interested in leveraging virtual environments for their research.
Thank you.
Yeah, similarly, as the topic is very relevant, my name is Kostas Alexis, and my field of specialization is robotics, autonomous systems, emphasis on mobile autonomy, and my goal is to work on a team relevant to advanced manufacturing and construction robotics.
Thank you. Others?
This is Jay Arnone calling. I'm at the Desert Research Institute in the Division of Earth and Ecosystem Sciences, and I'm working with Alan Gertler on a proposal and also with Hans Mosmuller and Adam Watts, both of DRI, on exploring, well, Alan described his interest, and I'm interested in participating in that team, as well as with Hans, who's very interested in sorting out the interactive effects of wildfire smoke, air pollution on human health and on ecosystems, and the feedbacks that those have on fire management.
Thanks, Jay. Anybody else would like to introduce themselves before we get going?
Well, am I in? Oh,
hi.
Hey, this is Wan Liang Shan from Mechanical Engineering Department at UNR. So I'm a assistant professor here, 4 years. And my research focuses on smart materials, soft robotics, and relevant mechanics. So I have, I think I've teamed up with Dr. Ian Tao-Shen here at EBME department, and also Dr. Kwang Kim from UNLV. We have a team, I think it's more than like almost 20 people now. We are proposing biomimetic and soft robotics, a consortium for that, which spans research from biology, mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, advanced manufacturing, and also like computer science and all those topics. So if you are interested in joining our team, shoot me a message, and we are trying to hammer out the final team, the team. All right, thanks.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, well, thanks everybody for coming to hear what we had to say today. Marcy, why don't you go ahead and bring the presentation back up. While she's doing that, I'll just start with just a very short description of what the Track-1 awards are. It's a Research Infrastructure Improvement Award. It's I'm still not seeing the presentation yet. Are you having trouble, Marcy, getting that up?
It's showing on our.
Oh, it's not showing on ours. Can other people online and see the presentation?
No.
No. Okay.
No one online can see it either?
Oh, now it's up.
Okay.
I can see.
Yes, we can see it. Gone again.
Okay.
Apparently I need to breathe into my microphone every once in a while.
Oh, yeah, now we don't see it again. Go ahead and breathe into the microphone again, Marcy.
This is Marcy. Do you see it?
No.
Oh, no.
Okay, now we see it.
James is checking it out. Okay.
Okay.
Can everyone see it? People online?
Can everybody see it now? All the online people?
No, I can't see. I'm not sure if others can see or not.
Not now, but I saw earlier.
Yeah. It was up for a few seconds.
Yeah.
James is trying to do a switch here and see if he can figure it out.
Okay. Well,
Gail,
while
can you say
they're
something, please?
Yeah. So while they're trying to figure it out, I'll just go forward with what you should see on your screen is that these awards are NSF. They're very unique in that they're NSF's only state-based program, so they're awarded to a state, and the primary goal is to improve the research competitiveness of whatever jurisdiction is proposing. Because of that, Nevada and other EPSCoR states can only submit one proposal to the Track-1 program. And so what we're doing right now is having an internal competition for pre-proposals that then will hopefully determine the pre-proposal most likely to result in an award, which would be under NSF's 2019 competition. We'll talk more about the timeline in a little bit.
Do you see it now, Gail?
I do, yeah. How about people online?
No.
Not yet.
Okay. Well, while they're trying to figure it out, I'll keep going here.
And
So
I
there's
will,
a number-
Gail, just a moment. Let me say we did post the slides right before this meeting on the EPSCoR website on the solicitation page where you click to register to come to this meeting. You can also click there to get to these slides.
Yeah, they're available now. We can see them.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so now by me talking, will that initiate the presentation coming up on my end, Marcy?
No, apparently not.
Okay. All right, I see it now. So there are a number of goals that NSF has put forth for this program is to catalyze the research capabilities, new research capabilities. There's a big STEM education and professional training aspect to these programs. There's a big emphasis on broadening diversity in the jurisdiction and to also engage partners in partners like industry and agencies, nonprofits to work with the jurisdiction on these projects. And then one of the goals that they're looking for is impacting education, economic development, as well as research. So those are the main goals for NSF EPSCoR. But what you really need to keep in mind for this program is that it's while it is an infrastructure improvement award, what's really first and foremost is the intellectual merit, the broader impacts, and the hypotheses and questions. This is what drives what infrastructure you will request in your pre-proposal. And this has shifted. I'll just make a note here. This has shifted over the last 10 or 15 years at NSF. There was less of an emphasis on the research, intellectual merit, and broader impacts, and really emphasizing the infrastructure. But they've really turned that, flipped it on its head. So the primary thing that you need to address in these pre-proposals is the intellectual merit and the broader impacts. And then again, that will lead you to what infrastructure you're going to request. So there's a number of examples of the types of activities that NSF looks for. Again, I can't stress enough that these are hypothesis and question-driven research programs. So you must have hypotheses and questions that are driving your research. One thing that's been very successful for these Track-1 awards is requesting funding for new faculty, startup funding to bring new faculty talent into the jurisdiction, but also to attract and retain established faculty by getting them engaged in these projects. These projects are really, they need to be multi-institutional. For Nevada, there's a requirement that all 3 research institutions are involved meaningfully, and there's tends to be multidisciplinary research as part of these programs. One thing that's really important to NSF is that these all be integrated, well integrated. I mentioned before, partnerships, engaging partners is really important. With the private sector, also with national laboratories and industry. Of course, when you talk about infrastructure, people immediately think of equipment for research, and this is certainly something that can be requested depending on what your science or engineering project involves. And there's a big emphasis on involving our 2-year, 4-year, and minority serving institutions. And the other thing that is NSF, of course, is very keen on is projects that have this high potential for outcomes that are transformative, that revolutionize disciplines, creating new fields and disrupting accepted theories. So they're looking for really transformative projects. So that's a really brief introduction to the NSF EPSCoR RII Track-1 programs. We do have, for this Track-1 program, we have some requirements. Some of them are NSF requirements, and then there are a few that are NSHE specific. One of the NSF requirements is that whatever topic you propose has to be in alignment with the NSHE Science and Technology Plan priorities. There's a link to this on the solicitation website, and you have to articulate this in your pre-proposal. One of the NSHE requirements, but this is a requirement because we know this is something that would be that would review well with NSF, and having the topic be in alignment with grand challenges, current science and engineering grand challenges, particularly interested in NSF's big research ideas, or the grand challenges could be NSF relevant, put forth by other agencies and entities. Of course, they have to be topics normally funded by NSF, either regular programs or cross-cutting areas. And then the final one that's an NSHE requirement is that it must leverage the strengths of all 3 NSHE research institutions. And I just wanted to go through, since we mentioned the NSF's big research ideas, some of you may be familiar with NSF actually has 10 big ideas, but only 6 of them are research ideas. And the first one is harnessing the data revolution. And you can go online and read more about these ideas. There's the second one is on the human technology frontier. Third one is on navigating the new Arctic. The fourth one is Windows on the Universe, the era of multi-messenger astrophysics. The fifth one is on the quantum link LEAP, leading the next quantum revolution. And then the 6 is understanding the rules of life, predicting phenotype. Again, your topic does not have to be one of NSF's big research ideas or related to them, but it does have to be some kind of grand challenge that's currently in the science and engineering realm. One thing that's not required but desirable, that the other 4 NSF big ideas are more process level, and certainly being in alignment or including some aspects of one of these would be very desirable in your pre-proposal. And I would just ask you to go online to read more about these. So now getting into the what's required in these pre-proposals. First, we do require that there's a letter of intent. It doesn't bind you to submitting a pre-proposal, but we do ask for a letter of intent. It's a very simple one-pager. If you go to the next slide, Marcy, the format, you'll be following the format that's in the online form. It's basically the names and the institutions of the co-PIs, title, and then a very brief abstract. And this is, we're requiring the letter of intent so that we can make sure that it's relevant for this program, whatever you're proposing. We can provide you some feedback on that. And then it will also aid in the selection of qualified reviewers, because these pre-proposals will be undergoing external peer review. I mentioned an online form. You'll find this form is on the solicitation page, and the deadline for this letter of intent is October 1st by 5 p.m. Our time here, Pacific Daylight Time. So now I'm going to move on to the format and the content for these pre-proposals. Most of what I'm going through, and Marcy, you can just bring up all these font and page guidelines. We're pretty much using the same guidelines that NSF requires as far as the font type, font size, lines per inch, margins. What's different is for these pre-proposals, the page limits for the purpose of this pre-proposal we have a limitation of a one-page project summary. The project description is a 16-page maximum, and there's 3 parts to this project description. The status and overview, which is a 2-page maximum. The research program is 12 pages maximum, and then partnerships and collaborations, the 2-page maximum. Now you'll note, and I want to mention this in particular because I know Amelia was on earlier. She is very interested in partnering on the workforce development and education aspects, as well as the diversity. And those are very large pieces and important pieces to the Track-1 proposal. However, for the pre-proposal, we are not asking for those pieces yet. We are only asking for narratives on describing your research program. And the partnerships and collaborations, as you'll see, those are partnerships with, for example, industry and agencies. The development and incorporation of workforce development and education diversity will come during the full proposal development starting in January. That's not to say you can't start thinking about that, but the big focus right now is on the research. So moving on to the project summary, I put this little cartoon up because it basically describes how often scientists and engineers are not very good at articulating their research in very understandable language. And So you really need to make this very clear and concise. The things that we're looking for in the summary are the clear vision and goals, the potential impact, the scope and research of what you're proposing. Research integration is really important. In the past, and I think a lot of Track-1 projects have this problem, they tend to have a lot of people involved, and which is important that we have a good cross-section of faculty working on these. But what's happened in the past is it looks like a bunch of individual research projects, and this really needs to be an integrated project, and you need to be able to show in your pre-proposal how all the research pieces are integrated in a meaningful way. And then just as NSF requires in their summaries, we need to see separate statements of intellectual merit and broader impacts, as well as a statement on how your pre-proposal is in alignment with the Nevada Science and Technology Plan. So I'm going to go through each of the three main sections. First, the status and overview. This is a 2-page maximum. The things that need to be covered in this section are the current status for your topic, for your proposed topic, of where is Nevada in its research and development with regards to this topic. For that topic, what are some of the strengths that Nevada has currently? What are some of the barriers? For example, it may be that you don't have enough faculty working in the area. You need more faculty, you need more, maybe some more equipment to be able to excel in that area. And then what are the opportunities? And that's really important to show all three of these in this section. This is an important place where you articulate the rationale for your vision, because again, this is going to drive what you're requesting with regards to infrastructure improvement. And you have to articulate what you're proposing will mitigate the barriers that you've identified and how it's going to improve the research competitiveness for Nevada. And again, it's really important since this is a requirement by NSF, to really specifically state what you're proposing is in alignment with the research that is a priority in the Nevada State Science and Technology Plan. So the second section, and this is really the meat of the project description, the research program, you need to articulate your goals, what's your intellectual focus, and what activities you're proposing. Again, you really need to bring out what the intellectual merit and broader impacts of those research activities are. And then as you're describing the research, you need to put it in the context of what else is going on nationally and internationally in that field, including the citations for that research. What are some of the major scientific challenges in that area? What are the current knowledge gaps? Because that's the part that you're going to be filling in your pre-proposals, how you're going to fill those knowledge gaps. And then really articulate the novelty and the originality of what you're proposing. In that 12 pages, you need to describe your research in enough detail for experts in the field. These are your peers, the people who are doing the cutting edge research in this area. They need to be able to see that your scientific hypotheses are sound, that the goals are appropriate for what you're trying to achieve. They need to be able to assess your research and training methods, whether it be field, lab, computational, or whatever you're proposing. NSF does emphasize in their Track-1 solicitation, so we are emphasizing it here as well, that they encourage innovative uses of cyber infrastructure. And those have to be presented and shown how they integrate with the project goals. So I encourage you, if you do, to think about what your project might need with regards to cyber infrastructure or computational power, and talk to Scotty Strachan, who's on this call, because he might be able to help you and participate in your pre-proposal to bring in cyber infrastructure so it really improves what you're trying to do in your pre-proposal. So there are a number of things that you need to detail in this section. The senior leadership, estimates of the participants who are going to be involved, including postdoctoral, graduate, undergraduate participants. What are your current resources that you can utilize to attain your goals? But then also, what are your planned resources that you need, as well as the infrastructure improvements that are needed to attain your goals? And then this last one, not quite last one actually, shows you really need to again show the coordination and collaboration, the integration among all the investigators and the organizations. And if you have national, international partners, how you're going to be coordinating and collaborating with them. This last one is something that speaks to sustainability. NSF, as well as NG, expects that programs that are funded by Track-1 are sustainable after the 5-year award period. So we're asking you to think ahead and describe what, at the end of 5 years, what would a center of excellence in your research area look like at the end of 5 years? Like how big, what would you be focusing on? Who would be involved with it? And how would it be sustained? More things that you need to address in your research program. I already mentioned the building on the strengths of UNLV, UNR, and DRI. This is really important. One thing that, an issue we've had in the past Track-1 programs is we've had all 3 institutions involved, but typically one of them may not be included in a really meaningful way. And that becomes very clear to the reviewers. They will pick up on that. So we need it to be something that each of the institutions has strengths in, and that they have a really meaningful contribution to the proposed research. Okay, we're really hammering on the alignment with the science and technology plan priorities for Nevada. But you need to articulate this in your research program, specifically these items of how it's addressing, what grand challenge are you addressing? And you should identify what it is, who proposed it, how recent it is, or if it's one of NSF's big research idea, how does what you're proposing align or contribute to one of those big research ideas? We want you to specifically address how it addresses the frontiers of knowledge. How are you moving science forward? And then how does it move Nevada's future competitiveness forward in this proposed area? I don't know if we're to the end of this one. So part of the research program, there's an area that NSF asked for on seed funding in emerging areas. And this is something that we want you to address in the research program. The seed funding programs are, it's something that we've included in our past Track-1 programs, and they're really great mechanisms for one, for bringing in additional faculty into the Track-1 program, but also for responding quickly to new opportunities in high risk, high impact, and these potentially transformative research areas. And what you need to do in your research narrative is, for this section, is identify which investment areas are you looking to have seed funding for, and what's the relevance and synergy with your proposed research program. You also need to describe the mechanisms to catalyze the research in these emerging areas, including what are the funding amounts, how many seed projects do you intend to fund, and what are the duration. And since these are going to be competitive programs within NSHE, you'll have to describe what are the mechanisms that you would use for selecting and evaluating seed projects that are submitted for this program. One of the requirements is, and this is an NSF requirement, that the funding for seed projects can't exceed 10% of the annual Track-1 project budget. So the third section in the project description is the partnerships and collaboration. This is a 2-page maximum. So you'll need to describe a plan for these partnerships and what they're looking for, what NSF is looking for is how these will innovate and for STEM pipeline development within Nevada, not only Nevada, but regionally, nationally, or internationally. NSF really encourages partnerships with nationally recognized research and development centers, and these include the ones shown here, federal and industrial laboratories, NSF-sponsored research centers, and then other academic institutions with nationally recognized research capabilities. Some of the activities, when you're describing your partnerships and collaborations, you'll want to demonstrate how these will directly contribute to attaining the proposed goals for your proposal, how they integrate with the research program that you're proposing. You should demonstrate how it will increase competitiveness by having these partnerships. These should build and strengthen the STEM pipeline within the state and provide opportunities for commercialization of research projects. This has become more and more important for NSF. This what these Track-1 projects will lead to with regards to commercialization and economic development. A few more things that you should include in this section is the goals, milestones, and timelines for creating these partnerships. And then again, with because NSF is really interested in this, we want you to really focus on articulating how your project, a partnership between your project and some of these larger NSF or federally funded projects, what these entail, and including cyber infrastructure. These partnerships can include unfunded partners or stakeholders. And I think that's it for the partnerships and collaborations. So I'm just encouraging you to frequently recheck the pre-proposal guidelines. If you have questions about any of them, you can contact me. My number and email are listed on the solicitation. Before we go on to the forms, Marcy, I was thinking maybe we could just see if there are any questions about all that I just went over.
Sure.
Okay. Any questions?
A quick question.
Okay.
So would you show the slides?
Oh yeah, the slides are posted on the website for this workshop.
Okay, okay, awesome.
Yeah, they just posted them.
Okay.
Yeah. And there's also going to be, this is being recorded, so you can go back and view it again. It will include any questions that people ask during or after we're done with the presentation. Any other questions? All right, well, we're going to move on to forms and also budgets a little bit later. Marcy is going to be going over that section.
Okay, we finally moved with the times a little bit, and we have online submission now, which is different than last time. So on our website, there is a location for you to just fill out your cover sheet, which would have your basic information, the PI, co-PIs, who their authorized representative is. It's nothing too major, but you can check it out before you're ready to submit by going to our website. And it's a little difficult to see where you do that, but we have on here, you just click on next and it'll bring up your cover sheet. And you can save and go back on that. So this is for an NSF project. So of course we, I need the slides back up, please.
Marcy, we're not seeing the oh, now we are. We just, okay, it just came up.
Yeah, so because this is a NSF proposal, we need to have the NSF biosketches. It's the standard NSF requirements, the 2-page limit per person. You can find the entire requirements at this link at the NSF website. We need those for each faculty or senior personnel level person that is going to be involved in the project. We have the facilities, equipment, and other resources that will be required as well. There is a template that is attached to the solicitation that you would use for that. It's just a basic Word document. You do need to open up the solicitation in the PDF to be able to see the attachment. It's paper clipped on. If you're just trying to look at it on your phone, you will not see the attachments. So please open it up that way. And so here you would, of course, talk about your laboratory space that you have availability to, any clinical or animal research that would be happening with your labs there, any major equipment you have access to. And so this helps assess if there's adequate resources for the project that you are proposing. Please just describe the resources that are directly applicable. We don't want to see a lot of filler in here. And the description should be narrative in nature and not include any financially quantifiable information. So say you have a researcher who is not asking for salary dollars, but he or she is going to be providing you some information and helping you with a project. You can put their involvement in the facilities, equipment, and other resources area, but not say how much effort or how much of their type of salary that they're donating, because that is seen as cost share by NSF, and we don't want to include anything with a dollar value in there. If you have any significant alterations to a building or acquiring a new building or land, you need to have a letter of commitment from your institution in your pre-proposal. We're not asking for the other letters of commitment at this time, but for any changes to the buildings, definitely we want to make sure that your administration is on board before we go forward with reviewing your proposal. Participants and partners, as Gail mentioned, This can include, it includes all of the NSHE partners, so all of your faculty or equivalents, if you've got certain subcontractors you know that you'll be using. And here you would include key personnel, even if they're not receiving funding, just so we know that they are going to be involved in some way. Also, you'd include your organization partners, your industry, other agencies, CBOs, government agencies here, just so we know who all is going to be involved in this project. And it's a very basic template, institution, name, involvement. It doesn't take a whole lot to do that one. And as we had said, for letters of commitment, any modifications to buildings or acquiring new buildings. We also would want a letter of commitment involved for any faculty new hires you say are going to be a part of this project. Again, we want to have the institutions buy in on those before these are reviewed. And if there's any sharing of data or facilities, you'd want to have letters of commitment for that. You don't need to have a letter of commitment from every person you've talked to who is going to be a partner on this project. We're not looking for that. We're looking for those really key things that if they don't come through, you are not going to be able to do the project the way you'd like to. So the budget and budget justification. NSF is a state-based program. They will give our jurisdiction, our state, one Track-1 award at a time. And that goes through NSHE's System Administration Office, the EPSCoR and Sponsor Programs Office. And then we sub-award the funds for the research activities to the institutions. And hopefully we will have some of our primarily undergraduate institutions involved in this, and they would receive subawards as well. You do need to treat this like you would any other proposal that you are working on, where you go through your sponsor programs office or business manager. If your budgets and proposals are not approved by your AOR, they will not be accepted, they will not be reviewed. So make sure you give them enough time to approve your proposals and work with you on the budgets. I recommend that you contact them very early. The pre-proposals are due on November 19th. Contacting them on November 15th is not going to be adequate when you're talking about a $15 million budget. You'll also be looking at budgets from all three institutions, so you're going to have to be tying in 3 sponsor programs representatives to make sure that your budgets are on point. So get with them as soon as you have your partnerships in place and start working through it. So just so you are aware, we do have the federal funding that comes in for this project, and then there's state program match, which is cash match, which is the cost share that is required that we give to NSF. So the budget that you prepared for us, once we have the pre-proposal selected that will move forward for full selection or for full expansion, that budget can be changed based on our needs. We may move some to the state dollars rather than the federal dollars. We may decide that there were things that weren't adequately funded within your application, and the project director, Gail, and I will work with the research leads on making those changes. There is a budget template that is attached to the solicitation. Again, you have to look at it when you are within Adobe to see it. It's the standard NSF template. That's what we use at this point, and it's pretty easy to go through. You need to have all of your budgets in there. You'd have a budget for each institution. It cannot exceed $15 million for the 5-year project. And you need to have a budget justification for each of the institutions. Make sure that you're including salary fringe and tuition costs and adequate increases for those. So if your institution is projecting out 3% increases, we can hope, cross our fingers, make sure that those are in there, and make sure the tuition increases are in there too, because that can end up being really tight when you're talking about a 5-year project. We also have annual statewide meetings for a project of this size where we need to get all of the partners together at least once a year and talk face to face about where we are with the project and how is it moving forward. So your teams can kind of determine if you'd like, you know, we're going to start the meetings in Las Vegas, second year will be in Reno, third year in Las Vegas, but you need to make sure you have adequate funding for travel for all of your researchers, including your graduate students, to attend those meetings. And then your institutions will help translate it into the NSF budget lines if you need help. The other thing that's a little bit different about this proposal is a requirement that was put into place by the vice presidents of research that one research institution cannot receive less than 20% of this budget, and you cannot receive more than 50% of the budget. They want to ensure that all three research institutions have very strong roles in these projects, and you need to show that in the budgets as well. If you have any of the primarily undergraduate institutions involved, this limit does not, you know, they don't have to have a 20% limit. You know, they can have a smaller role, but for the research institutions, it's no less than 20, no more than 50. On your budgets, you must have each budget line item needs to be justified. You've got 3 pages per institution. And as a general rule, you probably know NSF limits salary compensation for senior personnel no more than 2 months of their regular salary in 1 year. And if you have any sort of request to have an exemption to that policy, it needs to be clearly outlined in your budget justification, the need for that. You can refer to the GPG guide if you need more detailed information on budgets, and of course your sponsor programs office is your ally in helping you through that as well. And then just another reminder that we may, with the proposal that goes forward, there may be some shifting of funds based on the state versus federal. So for your pre-proposal, we're going to have you convert all of the items, sections 1 through 9, into one PDF, and you'll upload it on our website. Your AOR should be helping you with that, your authorized official, and the deadline is Monday, November 19th by 5 p.m. And we'll only accept pre-proposals that have been signed and submitted by your authorized official. Any questions on budget or forms? Okay, I think it's you, Gail.
Okay, you want to advance the slides then? I just want to let you know what the review process will be. We will have an external peer review panel, and this panel will be pulled together by our consultant, TIG. The external review will take place in later this fall, early winter. The review criteria are pretty much the same ones that NSF has for all its proposals of intellectual merit, broader impacts. There are some solicitation specific criteria that you can go to the solicitation to find out what those are. I encourage you to read those. Once the review panel is met and provides their summary through TIG, this will be transmitted to the NSHE Research Affairs Council, and based on the review, we'll select a proposal that will move forward into full proposal development. The Nevada External Advisory Committee, which is our state committee, it's a very high-level committee, they approve the selection of the pre-proposal that will move forward. And then I just encourage you to make sure that you're, once you think that you're there with your pre-proposal, go back and make sure it addresses all the review criteria as outlined in the solicitation. And one thing that that is very helpful is to have somebody like Roger help you, make sure that you're hitting all those points and that everything that you're proposing is clear and meets all the criteria. So the timeline, this is included in the solicitation for the pre-proposal. We're at the first line there right now, this workshop. Then we had mentioned some of the other due dates, but I'll just run through them. The letter of intent is due October 1st. The pre-proposals are due November 19th. The external review will be completed by early January, and then selected at that time will be the winning team in pre-proposal to move forward. And then the full proposal development will begin in mid-January. We expect, based on this year and previous years, that the solicitation will be released for the one that we're going to be submitting to will be released in early May of 2019. We expect that it'll be fairly similar to the FY18 solicitation, but there often are a few differences that we then need to address once the solicitation is released. We expect that the proposal will be due next August 2019, early in the month. And then if we're successful, we would get an award in summer of 2020, with the announcement of those awards being in the spring. So it's a long time frame, but it does take a long time to put together a competitive proposal for these Track-1 awards. So now I'm going to turn it over to this final section of this workshop presentation is going to be given by Dr. Kelvin Chu. Again, he's with our consultant, the Implementation Group, or TIG. And as Kelvin said, he's, and I will toot his horn in that he has a tremendous amount of experience with NSF EPSCoR, having been a program officer at NSF in the EPSCoR program, as well as heavily involved in running an EPSCoR program in Vermont for many years. So we are very happy to have him helping us to prepare a competitive proposal. So he's going to give you some of his thoughts on what you need to do to prepare a competitive pre-proposal.
Great. Thank you very much, Gail, and thanks everyone for sticking with it to this part of the talk. So I think you've heard a lot about the nuts and bolts of the process in Nevada and sort of the perspective on what the proposal should look like. And I'd like to just sort of bring a different perspective to that. It's complementary to what you've heard before, but I think the first thing I want to do is maybe change your mindset. So I have about 10 slides, and I'll start with the first one, which is called Track-1 Overview. So this is slide 45. So the first thing that you should be thinking about as you're writing your pre-proposal is that the proposal, the 5-year, $20 million proposal, that award, is not the goal, okay? Your goal when you walk in, when the proposal lands at NSF, is that it should be a hypothesis-driven, not discovery-based research, which means that you have to be able to articulate a hypothesis or a set of research questions. And that has to be something that's short enough and sweet enough so that a program officer who isn't necessarily a specialist in the area that you are thinking about can keep it in their mind long enough to say, this is this great proposal from Nevada that does X, okay? So the first thing you should think about is that the program staff in NSF EPSCoR are not specialists in that area. This is almost different from every other part of NSF, right? If you're a hydrologist and you write to the Hydrological Sciences Program, HS, then you're guaranteed that the people who catch your proposal are hydrologists. But in this case, you need to be able to make the case for what you want to do in a compelling way that a scientific literate person who's not a specialist can get it. Now, there is a catch to this, which is that there are people who will be specialists who will look at your proposal, and those will be the non-EPSCoR NSF program staff. So if you do write a hydrology proposal, and there are no hydrologists on the NSF EPSCoR staff, they will definitely go to Tom Torgerson or whoever's replacing Tom Torgerson at NSF, who's the hydrology person, to figure out what the strengths and weaknesses are. Okay, so this tells you that you need to sort of write at two levels, both the general level and the specific level. And then I would like to say that the best way to convey that you have a plan, the way that we've found at TIG and at NSF, the way to find that you've had a plan, is that the goal of all of this work should not be to get the 5-year $20 million award. The goal of all of this work should be to use the 5-year $20 million award to get the next thing, all right? So let's say you're writing a proposal for something and your goal should be an engineering research center or a science and technology center or some large federally funded center somehow. And the one thing that you need in order to do that is the stuff that you will get out of this award, okay? So think about this Track-1 proposal as the thing that allows you to enable the next piece. This turns on a lot of things for you immediately. It turns on sustainability. It lets you think about strategy. It lets you think about program management and project management. And it lets you talk about execution of the project. So the way to think about this project or this proposal is that you're laying out a roadmap for a goal, but the goal is 5 years from now, what you're going to be applying for. Okay, so on the next slide, slide 46, you know, it's very frequently program officers just copy and paste stuff out of solicitation. So I did that here. This is Track-1 Overview Plus. And there's a bunch of blather about what makes a Track-1 proposal, but I think the thing that I wanted to emphasize here are the words that are in red, at least on my version of the slide. So these proposals are unique in their jurisdiction-wide scope, so you've heard Gail say that they're statewide. They're complex, right? You can't just, it's not an individual investigator award. They have integration of individual researchers, institutions, and organizations. So you need to be able to draw from across the state, across your own institution, and across the other 2 NSHE institutions in order to get there. There's a diversity component, and there's an economic development component. All right, and some of those things come in through the education plan, and some of them come in through your partnerships and collaborations. But overall, the way to think about this is that this is a very, very complicated machine with a lot of moving parts. So when you are thinking about putting together your proposal, my suggestion is that you spend a lot of time, instead of thinking about who your 3 friends are at your institution that you want to write this with, think about the grand vision. Think about the topic and the teams that you would put together in order to chase that topic. But the thing that you should be going for is not just this award. The thing you should be going for is the thing after this award. Okay, so the next couple of slides are really based upon the awards that were made last calendar year. We've been waiting for NSF EPSCoR to release this year's competition. But barring those announcements, we can sort of tell you what won last year. So this is slide 47, what's been funded recently. And so last year, there were 5 Track-1 projects that were announced. They were Alabama, Kansas, Rhode Island, South Carolina, and Wyoming. And the 5 slides that follow are really just copied out of their abstract. So I don't really want to read a lot of material at you. But if we go to the first one, which is the Alabama proposal project called CPU to AL, it's connecting the plasma universe to plasma technology in Alabama. So I would just encourage you, when you download these slides, to just look at these 5 slides and see if you can see where the complexity is, where the broadening participation piece is, where the integration piece is. So let's take the Alabama one, for example. Alabama's project's about low temperature plasmas. And they frame it within a grand challenge of understanding low temperature plasmas for a variety of applications, okay? And what they've done is they've grabbed the experimentalists, the theorists, and the computational people from the U of Alabama system, Auburn, and the 3 HBCUs, the historically black colleges and universities, to go and attack this problem. Even though a lot of the smaller schools don't have plasma people in them, they have people who can use the plasma applications on like foods or agriculture or something like that. So the second bullet is there is all of their connections to private sector in the state. So aerospace, manufacturing, apparently, you know, some astonishing number of cars of the United States are manufactured in Alabama. Medicine, agriculture, and food safety. They're going to share resources and establish a center from across Alabama. And then the last bullet point is the education piece. Okay, so that's the Alabama project. And then I won't read the other 4 at you, but I'll just tell you about topics. The Kansas project was a microbiomes project, so that's pretty much a direct acknowledgement of the genomes to phenomes or the rules of life part of one of the NSF research big ideas. The next slide is for the Rhode Island project, which is a sort of a traditional marine monitoring project. There are sensor networks that will be displayed, and then they're going to look and try to do some modeling. So that project sort of looks like a coupled natural human systems project from NSF. The next project is slide 51, and that's the South Carolina project, which looks like a materials science project that's patterned directly after Materials Genome Initiative. So they took a White House initiative from under the Obama administration, and then they rolled it out in South Carolina and adopted it for what they particularly needed to do. And then slide 52 is a microbiome project again, another rules of life project, except this one is in Wyoming. Okay, so getting to the last couple of slides, I think the first thing that Gail stressed that we want to emphasize is the alignment with NSF. You want your project to have an important question that they're going to ask. One of the reasons why is that you are absolutely guaranteed that the people on the review panel who read your project are not coming from Nevada. So if you pick a project topic that's specifically important to you alone or Nevada alone, it's going to be difficult for reviewers to understand why that project should be funded because it doesn't apply to anything they know. All right. One way around that is to have a grand challenge question. And I think that, you know, given statements from NSF or statements from the National Academy, it's very easy to find grand challenges everywhere, right? But it strengthens your case if NSF or the academies have identified the topic area as something that's very important. Gail's already told you to think about the Big 10 ideas, and certainly of those Big 10 ideas, it's much stronger if you think about the 6 research ideas that are there. There are these other 4 ideas, of which one is includes, which is the broadening participation effort, and one is convergence. And I will swear to you that every proposal that TIG has seen in the past year where the budget's over $1 million has insisted that it's a convergence research proposal. I think convergence is the overused buzzword of 2018. So I'm not convinced that convergence itself is enough to indicate that you're a grand challenge, but I would say that if you can indicate how the research you want to do is truly interdisciplinary and indicate that it is convergent, that would be fine. All right, so things that you should think about. The first is the topic area that you're going to propose in an area that's funded by NSF? So if you're going to propose something involving biomedical instrumentation, that's fine, but if it involves clinical trials, for example, it might not be a great fit. Along this line, the thing you should think about is that there is going to be bias in the panel and from the program staff on this proposal. Not against Nevada per se, but if the proposal comes in and all of the people who are science leads, for example, don't have a knowledge of what happens at NSF, the program staff don't know them, or they don't have a track record of being they don't have a track record of funding in the area, then I think this is a pretty sizable investment of funds, and you should really be thinking about how it would appear on a proposal if all of the science leads, for example, don't have a NSF track record. So along those lines, do you know what NSF program areas that you would fit into for your particular topic area? Do you have success in being funded in these programs, and do you know NSF staff in the program area? So those last three bullets I think are really important from the perspective of the review process, right? So what we're trying to do by saying this is to prepare you for what happens to when your proposal arrives at NSF. Your proposal arrives at NSF, the NSF EPSCoR program staff look at it, and if it's in a particular topic, let's say, okay, I'm going to just keep picking on hydrology. So say it's a hydrological proposal. What happens is that the NSF program staff will go to the people in the hydrological sciences division, and they'll say, hey, look at this proposal. Tell me who you'd suggest as reviewers. And the hydrological sciences people will be allowed to suggest reviewers for the proposal. So your knowledge, your specific knowledge of the topic area and how that lives in NSF is probably pretty important at this point. Okay, and then in the next slide, topic alignment with Nevada. Very frequently, the questions that people try to answer here is, why is the project right for Nevada? So, the answer could be, it's right for Nevada because it's aligned with their state science and technology plan. It's right for Nevada because we're at the point now where we're ready to do this kind of work. But I would say that the other question you need to ask is the last bullet here, which is that you need to convince the panel that Nevada is the best place to do this project, right? That it's the best place for the investment from NSF. And along those lines, you need buy-in from across the jurisdiction, from higher education institutions, including minority-serving institutions, from the state, from the private sector. So that's the way you build your case that Nevada is absolutely the right place to do this particular project, by showing that there's overwhelming draw from across the state, right? One of the first things that Gail told you was that NSF EPSCoR Track-1s are unique in that they are a jurisdiction-wide competition. So that's the way you convince them. On the next slide is strategies. So the first bullet point here is that EPSCoR dollars are catalytic and not foundational. And what I'd like to say by this is that $20 million over 5 years is not a lot of money. The way you do the calculation is the following. You take $20 million, you lose a third of it in F&A immediately, so you're down at like 12.5. You take 12.5 million divided by 5, and that's about 2.5 million each year. 2.5 million if you were to divide it among each of the 3 schools, the NSHE schools, right? That's about $700,000, maybe $800,000 per school, right? Out of that, you have to run research, communications, outreach, diversity, And then if you divide it among the participants within each school, you're going to be lucky as investigators to be able to get a postdoc or a grad student or something out of this. So it's not like a ton of money. So what you should really be thinking about is how, it's not nothing, but it's also not a ton of money. So you should be thinking about how you can use these dollars to turn on the next set of projects that you want. The second bullet there is the thing I mentioned already. The award is not the goal. The award is the means to achieve the goal, and the goal is the next thing that you want to do. And then to do this, it's really that collaboration and teamwork are critical, so that you really need to be able to eventually cast your particular pre-proposal as something other than a bunch of people who came together to write a 16-page document because they could. The really compelling cases will be ones where it's easy to see how the connections among the investigators across different institutions within a jurisdiction exist, how they'll work together, and that there's really a plan. Invariably, all of your pre-proposals will have some sort of theme, and then they'll have a set of projects or research areas or something in there. The way to make that a compelling case is to make sure that those projects have interactions and that they build towards a common goal, which is deliverable for that project. Okay, and then on the final slide that I have, recommendations. So this is really just a recap. We would like your problem to have a national or state importance or regional importance. It should be hypothesis driven. Broadening participation is key, and you need to have representation across the Nevada institutions. You need to pick a topic area that's NSF fundable. And the way to make a convincing case here is that you're going to have a project that will result in some sort of sustainable thing. I've written the word center here on this slide, but it doesn't have to be a center per se, but something that has a chance of living past 5 years. Because this is EPSCoR, a key component is that it has an economic impact, and then it is the right project for Nevada, meaning Nevada is the one that should really be doing this. So I hope that's been helpful, and I think this is the time when we open it for questions.
Thank you, Calvin. Those are sage words. So questions on what Calvin just said, or it could be any part of the presentation or anything about the solicitation. Okay, we have one here.
Hi, this is Feng. So since I heard you have been in NSF as like the program director, so I just want to curious about how NSF can review this huge proposal, like because it might involve a lot of different experts from different areas, right?
Sure.
So how do they organize the panel?
Sure, absolutely. So that's a great question, and I was going to save that discussion for after the pre-proposal has been selected, but I'm happy to talk about it now. So unlike most competitions at NSF, this one doesn't have a lot of proposals coming in. So we can pretty much project who's going to be submitting this year. And the number will be about 6 or 7 proposals, and they'll come from different states. Each proposal will be different. So there might be one in material science, one in hydrology, one in solar cells, one in, I don't know, microbiome, let's say. So there are only a couple of proposals, probably one of each flavor, and they get reviewed in the following way. When they arrive, NSF program staff try to take each of the proposals and they take them to the directorate where they think it should go. That in itself is a statement that tells you something about the strategy, about what Nevada should be doing once the pre-proposal has been selected, but we can come back to that. So proposals arrive. Disciplinary specialists from inside NSF are given a whack at the proposal to try to make suggestions about who could review. Eventually, a review panel is convened, and it usually happens in the middle of October. Each proposal gets read by, say, 5 to 7 people. Of those 5 to 7 people, a couple of them will be disciplinary experts who will be what NSF calls ad hoc reviewers. They review by mail. They don't show up for the panel, right? So there will be a person chosen specifically for your proposal who has expertise in that area. Okay, that person will have a very successful track record at NSF. There'll be a career award winner. There'll be a full professor who's run a center or something like that in that area. Then the rest of the people who are on the panel, the people who actually show up in Alexandria to review the proposal, there are a couple of them. There might be some generalists who are generally familiar. So let's say there are 3 proposals that come in involving the life sciences and omics technologies. So there'll be a bioinformatician on there, let's say. And then a couple of the others, one person is chosen specifically to read the project management piece. So this is definitely somebody who has experience running a science and technology center, an engineering research center, something where the budget is about the same size as the budget for this, right? So in the tens of millions of dollars. There's always going to be somebody there who will know something about broadening participation. If we could talk about the competition that's going on this year, we know, for example, that both North and Dakota submitted in the Track-1 competition this year. Proposals were due at the end of July. So that almost guarantees, for example, that this person who knows something about broadening participation is going to have a specialization in tribal colleges and Native American, American Indian participation. So depending on who's in the mix for your year, we can take a guess at who that would be. But for this year, for example, it's pretty easy to predict that there'll be somebody involved from a TC or the Teacup project. But there's definitely a broadening participation person. In the past, there's been somebody who cares about education. So I was at NSF between 2012 and 2015, and what we saw on the panels there was definitely a shift from sort of generalists to specialists. So there will be somebody who cares about education, but they may also care about education in the life sciences or in a particular domain. So that's how the panels get reviewed. So that process happens in October. Usually by the end of this process, by the merit review process, then program staff work to generate questions for the team. So right around the day before Thanksgiving, the EPSCoR project director gets an email saying, you thought you were going to have a good Thanksgiving. Instead, here are the 10 pages of questions we'd like you to answer, and you have 10 days to do it. And these questions come back, they go back to you, and then you guys write a response. And then NSF program staff analyze it. The office spends about December and January and February prepping for the next set of reviews. So probably by the end of December, they know what happens to every proposal. But they have a separate review stage that needs to happen. That's called the Director's Review Board. That usually happens in March. And then it takes about a month to process everything afterwards. So you will probably in August, for submitting a proposal in August, not hear until the end of May, or the end of April, sorry, whether or not something survived. So that's the review process that we know about. And we will work with you through the entire state.
Okay, thank you very much.
Hi, Calvin.
The other questions.
Stephen from UNLV. So I like the way you put it, that the award is a mean to achieve a goal. And you said that some of the examples are like a center or a research center. Do you have some other example? You said center or a thing. So what other things could be counted for such a goal?
So I picked the easier examples. It's easy to name an STC, it's easy to name an ERC, and just to have that as the goal. And in many senses, we encourage people to name things like that because they are tangible, right? We all know what one of those should look like. Clearly, there are efforts that can exist across many institutions within one jurisdiction that don't have the center kind of ability. Other things that you should think about, at an individual institution are creation of PhD programs. What we've seen in some jurisdictions are that where there are multiple institutions, like in Nevada, is that there's a set of curricular developments that bind all of them together, and each institution has agreed to a certificate for, I don't know, bioinformatics or environmental ecology or something like that. You're looking for something that can be built towards. And I will tell you frankly, if you look at the STCs and ERCs that are out there, there are practically none of them in EPSCoR jurisdictions, right? So I think that it should be something that you can claim as a vision, but I don't think we're under any illusion that at the end of 5 years, there's going to be a science and technology center in Nevada. For the first reason is that the competition is going to open this year, and it happens every 4 years. So, the next time an STC rolls around will be 2022, let's say. So if you articulate that as a goal, though, it gives you something to build towards, all right? And so I think those are the kinds of discussions that you should be having with your colleagues, both at UNLV as well as UNR and DRI, to sort of see what you could build towards. And it doesn't have to be an NSF thing. If you pick a topic that has energy relevance, then DOE has centers. If you pick something that's got some enough biomedical in it that NIH might be interested, you could say that there's a program project grant at the end of this, right? There are other opportunities. So, for example, you could be part of an includes network. You could be part of some of the larger cyber infrastructure efforts out there, like tripods, or make a major contribution to a data hub. So I think as you try to build your network now, I just want you to think that the goal is not just to get the award, but the award is something that allows you to get the next thing. Okay? Or what is an RCN, a research coordination network, would be a great example.
Thank you.
Sure.
Other questions?
Gail, this is Alan Gertler. Anyway, just to clarify over here, when you look at the 6 research, big research ideas laid out by NSF over there, those were very specific. But you also say that it doesn't necessarily have to be one of those, so long as you are addressing a grand challenge. Is that correct?
Yes. It doesn't have to be one of NSF's big research ideas, but your topic has to address an NSF relevant scientific and/or engineering grand challenge.
Okay, great, thank you.
But as Kelvin has mentioned, it really needs to be something that NSF cares about. It is NSF we're applying to, after all. Other questions? Okay, well, really thank everybody for coming, and at this point, I wanted to make sure everybody knows that there is a face-to-face meeting that's happening. It's a team building workshop going to be at UNR. I think all of you should have gotten announcements about this. If you haven't, you can email Marcy or me to get the information. But it'll be from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. on September 18th at UNR. And the purpose is to bring researchers together to help them form teams to compete in this pre-proposal competition. So I encourage you, it's a great opportunity to meet with other people. Kelvin's going to be there to provide his input. You can ask him questions, you can ask me questions. But I think it'll be a great way for people to get together to really start consolidating teams. And you may find there are people who would be great on a team you're interested in that you hadn't thought about before. So again, if you haven't got the announcement or need the announcement, please give me a shout and I'll send you the information.
It's on the EPSCoR website, same place where they registered for this meeting. They can register for that meeting. Registration is required.
Great, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, go forth and form teams. And have a great rest of the day. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, bye.